Peace, Oakland. Let me start with the question. How does a man lie on his job application, get hired anyway, and collect a $300,000 a year taxpayer funded salary while leaving no trace of how he got the job done? Only in Oakland, California. Welcome to the Duffey Dossier, a three-part Gotham, Oakland investigation into one of the most quietly dangerous operators inside City Hall, G. Harold Duffey. This first episode is about war, a war on the truth, a war on accountability, and yes, a war on the people of Oakland carried out by a fraud who should have never been hired in the first place. Duffey claimed that he completed a contract as the city manager in Compton, but the truth is, he was fired by a 3-2 vote. He said that he managed hundreds of employees in previous positions. The real number, a mere fraction of that. You see, he didn't just pad his resume, he fabricated an entire career. And for some reason, Oakland never checked. There's no record of his hiring process, no interviews, no HR file, zero justifications for promotion, just one sharply scrawled name and a 6-figure paycheck. You see, this was not a mistake. It's a cover-up. Once inside City Hall, Duffey got comfortable real fast with his new friend, Ching Tao. He solicited undisclosed donations from city contractors, U.S. security lines, Marine ship, among others, pressuring them to fund city events and third-party nonprofits. Of course, none of it was tracked, none of it was approved, and none of it followed official regulations and procedures. You see, this violates multiple city codes and ethics rules, and it opens the door to outright bribery and a quid pro quo. Oh, but it gets worse. Harold Duffey personally interfered in the bidding process for an expensive Oakland citywide security contract. This is part one of a 3-part Gotham Oakland series about Harold Duffey, the Duffey Dossier. We're going to walk you through the paperwork they hoped that you would never see, the money trail they thought they buried, and the names of everyone who helped cover this up. As always, we're here to pull off the masks of corruption. This time, the spotlight is on G. Harold Duffey. And as always, we come with receipts. Stay tuned. This is Gotham Oakland. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Share this episode with anyone who cares about Oakland corruption so we can help clean this city up. So let's move on to segment 1, the Compton cover-up. So let's get one thing straight. Harold Duffey did not finish his contract in Compton, California. He got fired. In 2014, Compton City Council voted 3-2 to remove him from his job as city manager. Not a warm send-off, no retirement cake, just a political pink slip. Let's take a look at those receipts. So here is his application. And as you notice, he cited his reason for leaving as contract ended. Now, you may not know this, but in the city of Oakland, California, you sign a certificate of applicant that says that you certify that all statements made in the application are true, and you agree that you understand that misstatements or omissions of any material will be subject to disqualification or dismissal. Let me go a step farther. I clearly remember cases when I was the East Bay director for SCIU 1021, where we had members in good standing who actually had positive performance reviews, who, for whatever reason, the city discovered that they had lied on their employment application. One gentleman had been with the city for over 20 years. Guess what? He got fired. We couldn't file a grievance because the rules were very clear, and it was very hard to tell him that this minor mistake led to his termination. Lying about getting fired from a city manager job is much deeper than that. So let's move on to the next slide. I'm going to go through a series of documents just to show you how much that Duffey lied. And I think that the council member from Compton City Council put it pretty clearly. We're going to get to that in a second. The first document is a news clipping from I can't read this here, something journal, but it's from Melanie James, and you can look all this up, or the Compton Herald. And it talks about the replacement for Harold Duffey in the city of Compton. Roger Haley, hired as permanent Compton city manager. The headline reads, Roger Haley, formerly the city manager of the neighboring Linwood for 7 years, has been hired for the same job in Compton as a permanent replacement for G. Harold Duffey, who was fired in September 2014. On to the next one. The Compton Herald mentions that council dismisses G. Harold Duffey. And they go on to say, I have a quote from council member Isaac Galvin, who put it quite plainly. He wanted to part ways with Duffey because his work was progressing too slow on the city contract. And when he asked why, he never got a straight answer. Very similar to the whistleblower's complaints about Harold Duffey and his actions as the director of public works, and somehow he fell forward, as people always tend to do. The more corrupt you are, the greater likelihood that you fell forward in the city of Oakland. Let's look at another slide here. Word on the street, Harold Duffey. This is from Two Urban Girls, updated in February 17, 2023, first published May 19, 2019. Harold Duffey was let go from the city of Compton back in 2014. Shortly after leaving, it was discovered that he was attached to questionable expenses to the city's credit card. Maybe that's why he was fired. Now he's having some troubles in his new job as city manager of Grand Terrace. Grand Terrace is a tiny city that I've actually never heard of. But we're going to get more into that in a second here. And so in 2024, Duffey applied to be Oakland's assistant city administrator. And that's when he actually wrote the reasons for leaving as contract ended. So that's a clear and deliberate lie by an official city of Oakland on a job application. Think about that. And under Civil Service Rule 4.02, that alone is ground for immediate disqualification and termination from any job he fraudulently secured. For some reason, Duffey, when he was applying for the job, thinks that Justin Johnson worked for the city of Covina. There are actually several mentions to the city of Covina. Not sure if he was intoxicated or inebriated or he confused Oakland with Covina, but this is a frequent mistake. But let's go to the next part, the case of the missing records, because something very interesting happened. After the whistleblower, who works in a high-level place in the city, started to notice there were some issues with Harold Duffey. Now here's where it starts to get really dark. Let's start at the top when he entered the city in 2021. So Duffey was hired as Oakland's director of public works. This is a $250,000 a year role. Public records requests were submitted, asking to see his job application, his interview scores, his PowerPoint presentations, all of the materials that the city of Oakland required from the hiring process. And guess what the city of Oakland told us? No documents exist. None. Zip. Nada. That is a blatant violation of Oakland's record retention policy. These hiring documents are legally required to be kept for 4 years through, right now, 2025. So either the city illegally destroyed them or they never existed at all. I'll let you be the guest. So here is the public records request that was made on September 3rd, 2024, received August 23rd, 2024, and assigned to Samadi Garcia at Human Resources as the point of contact. And they asked for records, everything I just said. And if you look toward the bottom, it said the city has no records responsive of this request. So we asked for those documents and the city never put them out. So I have a question here. The absence of any sort of records is a major concern and absolutely warrants an investigation. And so with this whistleblower having submitted this, about a year ago, how come there has not been any investigation into Harold Duffey? And how come LaTonda Simmons is the one being terminated while Harold Duffey remains, even though we absolutely know he's a criminal? And when I say we know he's a criminal, I mean we know undeniably that he's a criminal. We're going to get to that further on in the three-part series. You don't want to miss it. If you're just checking in, like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get on to the next part. So segment 3. Let's talk about padding his resume. Because you know Harold Duffey is one shady person. But if you thought that was bad, wait till you see his resume. So first off, Harold Duffey claimed that he supervised 32 to 37 employees at the city manager of Grand Terrace. The real number, 6. 6 total employees ran the entire city. I've never even heard of it. That is a 500% inflation of his managerial experience. Now here's the kicker. He had 0 experience as a public works director when the city of Oakland hires him. Public works, such an important job. His last relevant public works job ended over a decade before. By all legal standards, he should have been screened out immediately. Now let's talk about the magical promotion in the phantom position that was just created out of thin air by Court Jester Johnson at the bequest of Shing Tao. After flopping as the public works director, Duffey wasn't fired. Of course not. We fell forward in Oakland to a brand new assistant city administrator position with a salary of over $300,000. Let's take a look. It said the city administrator's office requests authorization for the addition of 1 full-time employee, assistant city administrator in the department administration unit. And then you have some fancy paperwork there. You have Court Jester Johnson's name and signature, and then you have Bradley Johnson signing off on it. What did we need this position for? Does anybody tell me? And then Harold Duffey got this position on April 19, 2024. Dear Harold, I am pleased to provide you with this final confirmation offer of employment as Assistant City Administrator for the City of Oakland. This letter presents the terms of the city's offer of employment effective Saturday, April 27, 2024. The agreed upon salary will be $308,957.52, $25,746.46 per month. He also receives a monthly auto allowance on top of that of $350 per month, and paid vacation, and 10 days of management leave per fiscal year, and all sorts of great and wonderful things. Why is this? The job was never advertised. It was never posted internally. It seems to have been created just for Harold Duffey. And if that was not insulting enough, his Oakland job application was addressed to the city of West Covina. Oh boy. All right, let's talk about the public works collapse, or Compton 2.0, being Oakland. So since Duffey took over public works, everything fell apart. He promised 73 capital improvement projects. He delivered fewer than 10 in 16 months. Staff morale tanked. Procurement broke down. Contractors fled and projects stalled. And just like Compton, when pressed for answers, Harold Duffey had none. Yet, instead of being held accountable, he was rewarded. Now, I believe that Harold Duffey had this position created for him because he was deeply ingrained in the corruption with former and recalled Mayor Shing Tao, now facing 95 years in federal prison for corruption. How do I know that? Well, allegedly, this comes from a very trusted source who knows where all the bodies are buried related to Shing Tao's corruption. It should be kind of obvious that somebody else was involved in the city. So when it comes to evolutionary homes, allegedly Harold Duffey and Carol Fife are very much involved with that scam, along with Mario Juarez. Now, as you know, Mario Juarez is mentioned along with the ABC contract, We'll get to that in episode 3. But there's one thing you didn't know. Harold Duffey was in fact subpoenaed by the federal grand jury. Him and recently fired city administrator LaTonda Simmons. Both of them were called before the federal grand jury. And I'm not going to tell you what happened in that federal grand jury today because I want you back on episode 3 when we actually go through that. But let me tell you, it is explosive. And if you follow me on X, you already know. So if you want to know the secret, get your butt on over to X and just follow me at Seneca Speaks 21. And please like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Share this with 3 of your friends. So here are some closing remarks. As I said before, this isn't just incompetence. It is a blueprint for political survival through deception. Harold Duffey lied on his application. He skipped legal hiring processes. He had a position created for him and he failed the city he was hired to serve. A whistleblower bravely tried to stop it, but City Hall ignored it. But we're not going to ignore it because this is Gotham, Oakland. And on Gotham, Oakland, we pull off the mask and we tell the truth because Oakland is too beautiful of a city to lose to this dangerous, absolutely disgustingly corrupt demagogues. Oakland deserves better. Like, share, subscribe. Episode 2, Hiring His Homies, the crony network inside City Hall, drops next week. Peace, Oakland. This is Gotham, Oakland. Can't wait to see you back here on Friday. We have an extremely exciting interview with Shiloh Marks, who has been cleaning up voter rolls around the country and recently got a very interesting interaction with our Alameda County Registrar of Voters, Tim Dupuy, where he won his writ of mandamus in his quest to clean up the voter rolls in Alameda County. And we also discovered that there are over 100,000 voters that need to be purged from Alameda County's voter rolls, potentially giving insight to, as I've said before, how elections are being rigged in Alameda County. And I absolutely believe what I just said. Friday. I see you guys there. I love you. Peace. See you next time.
Yo, I swear it's only up from here. Yo, I swear it's only up from here. Yo, I swear it's only up from here. Yo, I swear it's only up from here.